Namaste. So I'm going to begin to talk with you a little bit about sexuality and the capacity for sexuality to be sacred. What that means to be sacred in sexuality, in making love. The capacity for sexuality to actually be a spiritual path. So leading one into gnosis, the way it's spelled, meaning the true knowing of God. That sex can be a path that leads you into the true knowing of God. And that the symbol, the deepest symbol in your mirror, so if you consider when you look at chakras, yeah, when you look at chakras, you can see them as a mirror of your inner landscape and your energetic landscape. And you can see them also as a reflection of the true nature on a symbolic level of God. Yeah. But let's slow down the conversation a little bit. I'm bringing in quite strong pieces because they all weave together in sacred sexuality. In the mirror system of chakras, when you look at chakras, you see something of yourself. At the heart, there is a chakra. It's called anahata, or the unstruck sound. So a sound that has no source outside of itself. Like if I do that, I'm creating the sound. It comes from somewhere, where the heart is the sound that comes from only within itself. It is not created outside or in causality to something. The unstruck sound of the heart chakra. And the symbol of that is a ascending triangle and a descending triangle that join, that look like what some people know as the Star of David. But it is a symbol that does precede that star, that symbol. And in the energies rising and falling in the chakras, in the heart, we see the rising of the sexual energy and the falling of the sky spirit energy meeting in the heart. So we have the meeting there of the masculine and the feminine in the heart, where then love can enter. Now things get really interesting when love enters the playing fields of this life, of yourself, of sexuality. So the thing I'd like you to consider, which isn't really a first step, it's kind of a process. It's a deep process. It can take many years of searching and of introspection, of life experience as well. Oftentimes it's a life experiences you might have appreciated and enjoyed having and learned a lot from, and some you might regret. But it starts with the question of rightness and wrongness. So in our engagement with sex, you may notice that there's a lot of conversation about when is sex right to have and when is it wrong to have. Sometimes in some religions, they frame it as when it's moral or not. It's moral aspect. So we place value in the act of making love. What are my values? You know, what are my values in this thing called sex, or love making sometimes? So what are your values? It's a good question to ask. it's good to ask the question, what are your values? And then look at them and examine them. Take them aside and examine them. So, for example, if we go to a value that once was really prevalent on earth, but not as long as you think, the value that sex can only be had inside a marriage. Outside of marriage, sex was immoral. Now, the prevalency of that only really arose in the last 1,000 years. It didn't arise with Christ or early Christianity. Marriage was a matter of the state, and it was more like a formal thing of business in a way, properties and so forth. It was a legal contract. Later on, the church got involved and became a secular contract between you and God. And sex, the contract with sex changed as well. So marriage and sex, or the belief that you can only have sex inside a marriage, isn't as deep in Christian religion, and I actually haven't checked all the religions, as you might believe. It became relevant more about 1,000 years ago. So marriage is a fairly new construct that is common to many on earth. For example, like 1,000 years after Christ, it would be a very informal thing. Someone would they would often just declare they're married. It was a very simple thing between two people. It didn't even involve the state. It wasn't like a court that married them. It didn't involve the church. It was just this, my word is my bond. We're married and this is it. It's almost like we have open business with Joe. And then, of course, we have agreements and hopefully we're honorable and keep them. So our belief these days is kind of belief of marriage around sex, which is also changing for many people are no longer really following that old value system. Many people are not following it. Personally, probably don't know any that are currently following it. I'm not saying I don't know any people that were married, but people that are married now probably had sex, or definitely had sex before marriage. And the idea of soulmate, the idea of your perfect mate and all that, wasn't a very common thought. Maybe it was like high-level poetry, but remember, a lot of people never read. They didn't read or write. It's also a new thing on earth, reading and writing. And then we get influenced by different types of thinkers when we read and write than if we didn't. So we come to the question of rightness and wrongness, which is a strong question around sex. And it's a good question for you to ask. On different levels. Like, for example, at the moment on earth, especially from America, from the Americas, we're seeing a different movement in people around abortion. There's a lot of questions there about the rightness and wrongness of abortion. And the thing is, as we become more conscious, we have more and more choice around pregnancy. So if I'm super sensitive and conscious, I can feel the exact moment I ovulate. I can know it's coming. And I can be aware what precaution to take. I'll know my moon cycle. I'll know when I'm bleeding. I'll know when I'm ovulating. I'll feel it. As we become even more conscious, a woman will probably be able to control the ovulation. So as consciousness arises, the feminine takes command of her biology naturally. We don't have to take command of it by using an external contraceptive or by going to a person who performs abortions to help us get rid of something we did not choose. And that sometimes starts with some questions. Like if we're going to enter sex with somebody, we can take a pause, right? Why don't we pause in that moment? Ever thought, like, why are people in such a hurry? Never heard of slow sex? People are in such a hurry. It's like, oh my God, if I don't get off my clothes now and start having sex instantly, I'm going to change my mind or what? Or I'm going to lose the heat because it's so feeble. Your passion is so thin that you have to jump on it instantly in case you lose it. So if it's a true feeling that's arising for lovemaking, it doesn't have to happen this second. And sometimes it can take some consideration. Now, I'm speaking from a woman that's lived a bit longer than 20 years on the planet. So I've had a few experiences. I'm also a woman that's had a strong interest in sexuality. So I have opened to different experiences that maybe other people might not have. And there's some I haven't opened to. Don't want to give this up. I get so bored of people's ideas upon me. You know, people who think they know you. I hear it all the time. Oh, you're a tantrika. It must mean you have sex with everybody. Well, that's absolutely not true for me. Though maybe I can't speak for all people. And that's the whole point. Don't speak for everyone. Everybody has their own very intimate, personal worldscape, especially around sexuality. Don't ever think you know anyone. I could be like one way last year, and this way I could be in a very different mood around how I engage sexually. Always take enough time and respect to actually ask someone who they are before imposing what you think they are. You know? Don't be so egoic. Give someone a space to actually present themselves to you. And for you to do that, you need to give yourself a space to present yourself to yourself, like meet yourself. And one of the places you can really do that is when you're considering making love to somebody. And that's a good time for a pause. And if enough men and women had to simply pause before making love, the need for abortion would radically disappear. Because what do? I'm pausing. Where am I in my cycle? When last did I have my period? Have I been taking the pill? If I take the pill. If I don't take the pill, is this a time where I'm close to ovulation? If so, perhaps I should wait till after ovulation to make love. My body's very obvious. When I'm finished ovulation, the cervix makes a thick barrier of a white mucus, because the cervix, if the egg and the sperm have joined and you're pregnant, then the cervix doesn't want any sperm to create an acidic environment where the egg and the sperm are growing. So the white mucus barrier stops sperm from entering your womb. To protect the body doesn't even instantly know if you're pregnant or not. It doesn't know. It could be. It's such a, so it just goes into an automatista. I'm just going to assume she's pregnant. So I'm create this white thick barrier mucus. And when a woman knows, okay, I'm on day 16 or something, and there's the mucus, I'm past ovulation. Very certainly. So she can know that. And that can be a part of her ways of, protection. Anyway, there's a lot of books on this. I don't have to explain it to you. You'll have to go do a lot of research and learn about your body. A man can learn about signs of ovulation and post-ovulation. So he can also, if he's going to be intimate with a woman, examine her vagina, check how the fluids are, where she's at in her cycle, feel the cervix. Is it soft? Is it hard? These are all signs. Again, you'll have to do your own studies. This is called taking a pause. Maybe we need to use a condom. I don't like condoms, but maybe I don't. Do I want this man or this woman to be the father or mother of my child? Maybe I'm not sure. So maybe a condom is preferable, even though it's not as nice as spare sex, than a child with someone I don't know if I want to spend the rest of my life in a parent relationship with. attractions can change. You can feel very attracted to someone, but in 3 months it's not the same. And you might really want to consider if you want to be a parent with them. So you just take a pause to simply ask those questions. And that can help a lot of pregnancies that, that degree of consciousness, which isn't a lot, by the way. We're not on high level consciousness yet, where we can enter into the biology of our bodies and affect it and so forth. I imagine that is still coming if we have to follow the vision of Frank Herbert in the book Dune, where he does say that women can ovulate at will and they can also decide the sex of the child if they wish to fall pregnant. So he foresees quite a strong consciousness movement where such a woman would never require an abortion from a man with some instrument. It would seem really obscene, actually, or like what's gone, she lost her faculties completely. So in that pause, it's also good to check into, oh, I'm feeling attraction. There's an invitation for sex from my side and his side or her side. Now check into your body, check into your feeling, check if there's alignment between your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, your spirit. Is there alignment? Like, am I aligned, or am I going to have sex with this person? And tomorrow I'm going to go, what was that about? I didn't enjoy it. I didn't feel it. My body's feeling tired. I mean, you can have imperfect sex. It's also perfectly good. But the pause is just to like really notice where you're at. Check into that moment of rightness and wrongness. Rightness and wrongness is not necessarily about your agreement with a moral dictum from a mainstream religion or your parents or something. Rightness can just simply be an alignment to Dharma. Dharma is essentially, it's like the stream of the energy of yourself that forms life. Life that's arising from the true self. And when we're in alignment with that, then our life starts to become a flowering. So when we check into rightness, we can also see if we're in alignment with this true stream of our being. And that can, it really doesn't pay much attention to the common and popular morality or value system of the culture you happen to be existing in. Because like I explained before, with marriage and sex and so forth, those things change. 1,000 years ago, they were different. In 1,000 years, the value system you're in will be, of the culture you're in, will be different from now. If you're in Denmark, it's different to if you're in Saudi Arabia. So even now on Earth, you can get morality systems that are very different from place to place. So we can't, especially in sexuality, because sexual energy is arising from within your being, right? It's coming from inside of you. If it's true, if it's not just like stimulated like Pavlov's dog, Pavlov, you ring the bell, the dog salivates. Here you expose a breast, the man salivates. I'm being crass, I'm sorry, apologies for that. But it can be that direct, or it's like there's lots of bells to ring to activate a person's sexual energy externally. But when you come to load shedding, wow, now we have to talk in the dark. When you come to anahata, the unstruck sound, the sound that arises from within itself and not from outside itself, the sexual energies are like that in a way. It can be responsive, but it has its own intelligence, and its sexual energy has its own dance of things. There's a sexual energy that is unstruck, that is just as such. It is that. And it's like rain, really. It's a rain. It's like a blessing, a grace. You know, like in its natural way, we don't control the rain. And in its natural way, you don't control sexual energy. So it's also good to stop judging it when it comes, when it responds to someone, when you act. It can respond in a way to situations that you don't expect. You know, you may suddenly be attracted to your best friend's wife or husband and feel that energy, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so inappropriate, or it's so against my values. I can't believe it's happening, but it happens because you're not actually in control of the sexual energy. So we want to move to a place where sexual energy is not controlled like the dog is controlled by the bell. We don't want sexual energy to be that of the mental conditioning. We want it to be free of that, and yet move even beyond that to a deeper freedom. Sure. I'm going very deep now. I want to pause. Let's just stop, let's pause at freeing the sexual energy from the mental conditioning you now have, with the question, is what is right and what is wrong about engaging in sex? Examine your own beliefs, values, principles around when is it right to have sex and when is it wrong to have sex. So that's really the most basic way I can express this invitation in this video, in this level, basic beginner level. No, it's not a beginner level. Our first level of this conversation is for yourself. What do you believe is right and wrong about when you can or cannot have sex? Consider that, because later on I'll explain to you how deeply it affects you, how deeply it affects when you have sex and when you don't, and how deeply it can affect many aspects of your work in life and of your relationships in life. And that foundational training we get about rightness and wrongness around sexuality and what you take of it and what you don't, and your own beliefs around it, can affect your entire life and your movement with your entire life. It can inform it. How does it do that? Well, if you just a simple example, if you have a desire and your immediate response is desire is wrong, when you have a desire, an impulse also to write a book or go for a dance, whenever you feel desire, because desire, people associate it with sexuality, but desire comes in many forms, you will say that desire itself is wrong. So that's just one example. Anyway, do the exercise, write it down. What do I believe? What are my values? That is right and wrong about having sex, and get conscious with it. Start to get conscious of your beliefs. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. And they're just yours right now, and they inform your sexuality, and they inform you also your dance with desire. In this example, they inform many things, but I gave you that example for now. Okay, enjoy. Good luck. Spend some time with it, and you'll know this thing can take, like I said, it can take some years. This practice. Once you start looking, it goes very deep down that rabbit hole into your unconscious, very deep, and it will reveal so much about your life and your actions. So enjoy. Namaste.